Hello, 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 and welcome to a TLDR rundown of Victoria 3 Dev Diary number 146, Diplomatic Treaties. I feel like with each of these dev diaries, I end up saying Update 1.9 is shaping up to be a massive update, and this dev diary reiterates the same point. By now, I think we should all start calling Update 1.9 Victoria 4. What they outlined in this dev diary about the change to diplomacy is massive and excellent. So if you're a busy gamer on the go and don't have time to read the whole dev diary, here is a TLDR rundown of it. As always, if you want to read the whole dev diary, the link is in the description. The big thing they talked about in this dev diary is the change to diplomatic agreements, which are now called treaties. They included this wonderful animated GIF to give an example of what it will look like. They're retiring the current diplomatic actions list, kind of, to replace it with the new treaty negotiation screen. I say kind of because they did say certain elements of this list will still be here, things like improve relations, declare rivalry, etc. But most of the things on the list will now appear here. Now you will make treaties with other countries, and it can be more of a negotiation. The things you add to the treaty will be called articles, and they can range from things like alliances or defensive pacts to the trading of goods. As they outlined in the World Market Dev Diary, trade routes are going away. Like construction, now there will be public and private trades. Dev Diary number 143, Trade Rework the World Market, outlined what private trades will look like. Now we get a look at what public or government-to-government trades will be. You will be able to send goods to a country to get other things in return. It can be another good, or it can be other articles like trading a state or getting an alliance or even investment rights. A couple people have commented how this looks like a civilization or total war diplomatic negotiation. However, if you look at the image, it looks like it will cost you influence to send the treaty proposal. So not exactly like the Diplo negotiations in Civilization 6, where you put up a good and ask for gold and just keep putting the number down until the button turns green. It looks like this system will have a cost to send the proposal, which I think is great. You can even negotiate getting a treaty port, which makes sense since before you would get a treaty port through war and there was no treaty involved. Now, to get a treaty port, you have to actually create a treaty. Another important article you can propose are transit rights. It's similar to what they talked about in the previous dev diary with military access. However, this will provide access for your trade network. They gave the example of Switzerland. In the Trade Rework dev diary, they said you need to have access to the sea in order to be connected to the world market. This will be a problem for the landlocked nation of Switzerland. Now you can negotiate transit rights, which will give your market access to the sea through another country. You can see in the image here, Switzerland is now connected to the world market through the French state of Provence after having created a treaty with France for transit rights. You can also negotiate how long a treaty will last. They provided this image, which shows a set number of years to select from, but they did mention this might be changed to a slider upon release. Like they say in all these dev diaries, the images are works in progress, but you will be able to set time limits on treaties. You will also be able to renegotiate or withdraw from a treaty if you don't like it. This image shows what you will see when you have an active treaty going. If you don't like it, you can request a renegotiation from the other country. If they refuse, you have the option to withdraw from the treaty, but they said that will come with some type of cost or penalty, though they didn't specify what. They went into some details about what happens if you can't fulfill your end of a treaty or vice versa. For instance, if the transfer of a good was part of it, like you need to send 100 grain to a country in exchange for something else, but your market starts to have shortages in grain and you can't fulfill the request, then whatever it is you are to receive from the treaty will stop being sent. Or, for instance, if you have an alliance in a treaty and you decide not to come to the other country's aid, it will void the treaty with penalties. You can also earn obligations from countries by providing them with a lopsided trade. You give them a good for almost nothing, it will start to earn you an obligation over time. They went into quite a bit of detail on how you can mod this system. In full disclosure, I've never created a mod before, and so a lot of this is beyond my capabilities. But what I can tell you is that it sounds like they are providing full modding support for this system. Basically, what they said is we can't think of every article that someone might want to include in the game, so modders, have at it. You'll be able to mod the system in order to create new articles with various effects. An interesting thing they pointed out is what you will get from this system from the paid DLC Charters of Commerce. The new mechanic will be part of the free update that comes with 1.9, but if you pay for the Charters of Commerce DLC, you will get some additional articles you can include in treaty negotiations. Things like no tariffs or subventions on goods. Subventions are a new thing they went over in the Dev Diary number 143 trade rework. Prohibiting trading goods on the world market, law commitment. Something that I think will be big is non-colonization agreement. So you can create a treaty that says, I will give you this if you don't colonize this region. And lastly, grant monopoly to foreign country. We don't know what this means yet because they haven't gone into monopolies, but they did mention this will be discussed in the next Dev Diary. The last thing they went over is how this system will integrate with diplomatic plays. Now you can add war goals that will enforce certain treaties on a country, and if you win, will create a treaty the other country can't withdraw from. They said it will basically be like how war reparations work now, except instead of getting money from the other country, you can get whatever the enforced article of a treaty is. So the example in the image here are things like investment rights or goods transfers. One thing they did mention early in the Dev Diary is that you won't be able to do multilateral treaties, meaning treaties can only be between two countries. No crazy NBA-style three-way trades. Which on the outset sounds like, oh, that sucks. But in actuality, let's be honest. How complicated can we make the most complicated game? Although they did leave the door open for this option in the future. As always, this is very exciting stuff. At this point, the 1.9 update is going to completely change the trade system, the diplomatic agreement system, and improve elements of the military system. I'm very excited for the release of what I'm now calling Victoria 4 on June 17th. That's it for now. As always, be awesome.